New polling data shows Joe Biden getting absolutely slaughtered by Donald Trump next year in key swing states. But first, do you remember when Michael Jordan said Republicans wear sneakers too? Well, Republicans drink wine too. Get your Elephant Drink Wine Too t-shirts in the link in the box below. Let's get going here. All right, let's check out some video. It's devastating for Joe Biden. Here we go.
In the race for the White House, new polls are showing some very unfavorable trends for President Biden. The latest CBS News poll of likely voters finds President Trump slightly ahead of President Biden. The numbers there, 51 to 48%. There are also some new numbers from battleground states that have Democrats quite concerned this morning. Nancy Cordes is at the White House with more on that. Nancy, good morning. What are they saying about these latest poll numbers?
Well, Gail, some Democrats we spoke to this weekend concede they've got some work to do based on what they are seeing in these new polls, starting with the fact that the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, Donald Trump, currently has what appears to be a major edge over President Biden on two key issues. First off, the economy. In our CBS News poll, only 18% of likely voters said that they'd be financially better off if Mr. Biden wins re-election, while 45% said they'd be better off if Trump wins.
That is huge. 18% say they'll be financially better off under Joe Biden. I wonder who this 18% of people are. 45% say they'll be better off if Trump wins. That's a 27-point margin. That is huge.
When it comes to foreign affairs, only 31% think that President Biden's policies would increase peace and stability compared to 47% for Trump. Now, part of the challenge for Mr. Biden here is that people are simply pretty pessimistic at the moment. 7% for Mr. Biden, for Trump. Now,
all right, peace and stability in the world. If Biden wins, 31% say there'll be increase in peace and stability. Trump is doing a lot better in that aspect, 16%, which I think is a lot higher. If you take a look at the world right now and compare it to the years when Trump was in office, it was much more peaceful. The Middle East was not as crazy. We didn't have two different wars going on. Russia was in check. Iran was in check. North Korea was in check. It was just a lot more peaceful. You had the Abraham Accords, which was actually very huge, and I think did not get enough credit. He did not get enough credit for that, bringing those countries together. Decrease peace and stability. They think 43% say Joe Biden will, versus 36% say Trump.
Part of the challenge for Mr. Biden here is that people are simply pretty pessimistic at the moment. 73% said that things are just going badly in America right now, and that's up from 65% at the start of the year. So voters just don't feel great about where things stand right now, despite the fact that we've seen several months of strong job growth and shrinking inflation. Gail?
Well, we're about 100 days out now. We should also point out that the CBS News poll, not the only one showing bad news for President Biden. So what do you see in some of the states known as those battleground states that will probably decide this election? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, this really caught a lot of Democrats by surprise, Gail. A New York Times poll of 6 battleground states that President Biden won back in 2020. Now in 5 out of 6 of those states, Mr. Biden is trailing Donald Trump. He's behind by 5 in Arizona, 6 in Georgia, and a startling 10 points in Nevada. He's even trailing in states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, where the president has seen strong Democratic support. He's just barely.
That's actually huge. For him to be up double digits in Nevada is massive.
Edging out Trump in Wisconsin. We asked Biden campaign officials about this yesterday. They insisted they're not alarmed. They noted that former President Barack Obama was trailing at some points in this poll, at this point in his reelection cycle, too. It is worth noting, though, they've already spent millions to try to sell President Biden's record on the economy to voters. So is it sinking in? And Gail, one very interesting finding in these battleground states, if Trump is convicted in any of his criminal cases over the next year, a chunk of voters say that that would cause them to shift their support from him to President Biden.
Okay. Now, Biden's team is saying, yeah, Barack Obama was down going to 2012, so they're not that alarmed by it. But the difference is, inflation was not as bad. Look, I'm not a Barack Obama fan. I don't think he did a great job at all. But I will say inflation was not as bad. The border was not as bad. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Look, he was not as bad on the border as Joe Biden is. We didn't see 1 million, 2 million, 2.5 million people a year crossing the border. There were actually a lot of people deported under Obama. And he did focus on getting criminals out of the country. I will say that. I looked at the numbers. I will say it was far better under Obama than it is under Joe Biden. The stock market didn't do too bad under Obama. It was much better under Trump, but yeah, things were a little sluggish there. We were more divided. That's when we started becoming more divided, in my opinion, was under Obama. But at least Obama was coherent. He could talk. He talked a better game than Joe Biden did. He was much younger, and Joe Biden is the worst president we've had in human history, in American history. That's the difference. We're seeing a complete disaster under Joe Biden. And Obama was bad, but Joe Biden is far worse. Now, it's not only that. There are black voters, according to the polling data, are going for Trump in much larger numbers than they have in the past for a Republican candidate. Check it out.
Democracy. These are issues Democrats consistently point to as trump cards here. And the major lingering issue of Biden's age, well, it has become very clear that is not receding. 71% say Biden at 80 years old is just too old to be an effective president. The irony here is only 39% feel that way about Donald Trump. He is 77. Now, there is a caveat to all of this that we should keep an eye on here. If Donald Trump is convicted and sentenced in the federal election subversion trial, the picture changes dramatically. In that situation, those polls say that Biden wins in all of those swing states, every single one of them. Something to keep an eye on going forward. Poppy?
Got to read the crosstabs, Mattingly. Let's bring in CNN political analyst Natasha Alford.
Ooh, the smiles on their face about him getting convicted.
Lewis back with us, senior political analyst and anchor John Avlon. Great to have you all here. Natasha, let me just start with you. I mean, reading in the crosstabs, the most important part, as Phil reminds us, just all of those, from women to Hispanic voters, black voters, 22% of black voters behind Trump. That is not seen in the modern era for a Republican frontrunner, right? I mean, wow.
It's startling. I looked at the Democratic response, Kevin Munoz, the spokesman for Biden, and this idea that, we have a year, we can turn things around. I think you have to look at this being a challenge from the very beginning, right? Black voters from the very beginning were saying that we will help you get Joe Biden into office, but, this is not necessarily our preference. This was about democracy and saving democracy. And so here...
Saving democracy. Oh, my gosh.
Here we are a year later, he has not been able to change their impression. Black home ownership is down. Going to the store, even if jobs have improved in terms of numbers, the prices that people are paying it doesn't resonate with them. So Bidenomics, all of the things that Biden has done to try to connect, it's not connecting with this group.
And black unemployment was quite low during the Trump administration.
And lower now.
But lower now.
Yeah,
but
but he said it all the time. Trump said it all the time.
He had a gift.
See, that's the thing. Black homeownership was up under Trump. Black unemployment was down. Hispanic unemployment was down. Yes, people are working. There are a lot of jobs. People are working, but the thing is, inflation is so much worse. Gas is much higher. Interest rates are much higher. To own a home, it costs much more now than it did back then. So things that affect your everyday life were much better under Trump. Like I said, gas prices. The price of food was lower. The price of buying a home was much lower. So all these things that affect your everyday life are much worse off now than they were back then. Now, if they don't fortify the election like they did in 2020, then you will see a colossal defeat of Joe Biden. If he is the nominee, unless they remove him, I don't know what they're going to do. But either way, I think I don't care who. If you throw in Gavin Newsom, Trump will just attack his record in California, and people know how much of a disaster he's been in California. So that's not going to help them. He's younger, yes, but that's about it. He talks a better game, but Trump has the record to go on. He has a proven track record. People's lives were much better then than it is now. And I saw a video of two black voters, separate. They were separate. They weren't associated with each other. It was on Fox Business. They interviewed them, and it was a male and a female, and they both said that their financial situation was better. And then the lady said she's not the only person who feels that way. And then the guy said Trump's policies made more sense for the business more from a business aspect. His policies made more sense with the tax cuts, the deregulations, the trade deals. Those things made much more sense than what Biden is doing. He saw Biden is doing is basically just politics, policy and politics. That's all he's doing. He hasn't really done anything substantial to help the everyday American, is what this guy was saying. And that's what people are going based off of. How they are, what they were 3 years now versus 3 years ago versus how they are now. Yeah. So, all right. That's my take on this polling data. Hopefully it holds and they don't do anything to subvert and fortify the election. Fortify. But yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Like and subscribe. I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care.